Good afternoon to friends in China and good morning to friends in Pakistan, and greetings to all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are at this forum organized by the Center for China and Globalization and Understanding China Forum, focusing on the Belt and Road Initiative and its centerpiece and flagship, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, which is already a success story in its first phase, and now it is entering the second phase of its development with the support of the people of China and Pakistan and the governments of both countries. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is being held at a very historic timing because the pandemic coronavirus for the last 2 years, which has been raging all over the world, which is a common threat to humanity, has largely been put under control, first by China and now by Pakistan as well. And we salute how China handled the coronavirus pandemic, especially the spirit of Wuhan, the 76-day Wuhan lockdown last year. And then China gave support to friends and neighbors like Pakistan through equipment, through testing kits, through ventilators. And in fact, there was an air corridor between Pakistan and China where goods were being transferred, medical supplies from China to Pakistan on a regular daily basis. So we appreciate that China has not only contained, curbed, and controlled the coronavirus pandemic in its own country, but it's sharing its vaccines as a global public good. And I and my family also have got the Sinopharm vaccine, along others have got CanSino, Sinovac. So it's been a success story, not just for Pakistan, but the world over. The second important context in which this webinar is being held is the change in Afghanistan. It's a historic change. It's marking the end of the American century, which was supposed to begin after World War II, 1945, and I think which formally ended on 15th of August, 2021, with the humiliating defeat and exit of the American troops. And it's not just a defeat for the United States, it's a defeat also for NATO and defeat for wrong policies that were based on use of force, because this so-called war on terror has been devastating for the region. In Afghanistan, it cost $2.2 trillion. It led to the deaths of 250,000 people. $300 million were pumped in every day in Afghanistan. And 80,000 bombs, missiles, and drones were dropped on Afghanistan in the last 20 years. And Pakistan has been facing the consequences of these wrong policies because we have been fighting our own inland war on terror successfully, where over 80,000 Pakistani soldiers and civilians were martyred. And we are still hosting the largest number of refugees for the longest duration in history. So ladies and gentlemen, how do we move forward in this context? A changed context for the region, for Pakistan and China, and for the world. Number one, the way forward is not conflict and confrontation. The way forward is cooperation and connectivity. And I was recently in Glasgow for the COP26 conference on climate change. And I mentioned in my speech how China has taken leadership on this issue as well, apart from coronavirus pandemic. And I mentioned President Xi Jinping's pledge not to build coal-fired plants in the foreign countries in the future. So I think that this is a very important step forward. China is showing leadership in climate change as it is showing leadership in other countries. And the way forward is not a reversion to a Cold War mindset, as some people are seeking in the West. We reject such a mindset because Asia, after decades of conflict, after decades of strife, after failed and flawed policies, can no longer return to that mindset that seeks to control, that seeks to have bloc politics, that seeks to contain countries, and that seeks returning to the Cold War by roping in other countries and forming alliances. So this kind of policies are rejected and failed. And that is why I said that AUKUS, the Australia, UK, US alliance, is also a wrong initiative at a wrong time. It's divisive and it's dangerous because it will have other consequences. And frankly, it's not part of Asia. It's something which takes it part outside Asia also and goes against the grain of the Asian century, which seeks connectivity through economy, energy, ports, pipelines, roads, and railways, which is what the Belt and Road Initiative of President Xi Jinping is all about, which is probably the most important diplomatic and developmental initiative in the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, 2021 also marks the 70th anniversary of Pakistan-China diplomatic relations. And this is a historic anniversary because this is a unique relationship. It has no precedent in the annals of international relations. It is neither transactional, nor tactical, nor directed against any third country. It is based on mutual benefit, bilateral cooperation, which seeks to stabilize the region that we link with. And I think this relationship is a model for other countries to follow. And both countries, Pakistan supports China's core interests, whether it's the issue of Tibet, Taiwan, Xinjiang, Hong Kong, South China Sea, and China also supports Pakistan on its core interests. So it is a mutually reinforcing relationship. And at the core of this relationship, ladies and gentlemen, is the people-to-people bonding. I remember I went to China first as a teenager. I was a college student. I was a regular listener to Radio Peking. This was the early 70s. It was the days of the Cultural Revolution, the China of Chairman Mao, China of Premier Zhou Enlai, the China of Marshal Zhude. So I've seen China's development. Then I saw the China of Deng Xiaoping reforming, opening up, and now we are seeing the China of President Xi Jinping, which is unlike the past, neither weak nor poor. And China is standing up, and China's peaceful development is a source of strength for countries in the region, especially Pakistan, because China believes in the UN Charter, China believes in the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, and China upholds international law. Coming to the present situation, we are very happy that CPEC is now entering the second phase. The JCC was held in September, and both sides reaffirmed their commitment to promote, preserve, and protect the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And this reaffirmation was done at the highest level when the president of China, President Xi Jinping, called the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and they discussed, and they said that CPEC will drive the Pakistan-China relationship in the future. And last week, we were very heartened that the CPEC authority in Pakistan hosted the leaders, the CEOs of 70 Chinese companies which are working in Pakistan. So that is extremely important. And the Board of Investment, which oversees the special economic zones, has also been overhauled. They have a new leadership. And I think the new leadership of CPEC authority, the new leadership of the Board of Investment in Pakistan has injected fresh blood and has rejuvenated dynamism into taking CPEC forward at the stage and the speed that we had initially decided. As chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on CPEC, I was taking the initiative at the launch of CPEC, and during that period, we saw building the first phase of CPEC, and that is a success story. 75,000 Pakistanis have gotten jobs. 28,000 Pakistani students are studying in China. There is greater connectivity. Gawada port is moving forward with the Gawada Special Economic Zone. There was Thar coal in Pakistan, which was never mined. Now it is being mined. The mining is also being done and generating electricity. And then after that, we also have seen that after the generation of electricity, the electricity is going into the national grid. So given this context, we see that the second phase of CPEC, which is about industrial zones, special economic zones, which is about IT, which is about agriculture, which is about education, that is taking forward. And we feel that together, Pakistan and China will take it forward. But as I mentioned earlier, the core is the people-to-people connectivity. And my institution, the Pakistan-China Institute, which I established in 2009, is actually a labor of love to be a people's platform to bring the Chinese youth, women, civil society organizations, academia, media, business persons, opinion leaders together on a similar platform so we can cooperate, we can discuss each other. And more so, this cooperation is needed because of the changed situation in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a neighbor of China and Pakistan. There have been 42 years of conflict due to foreign intervention in Afghanistan. And we feel with the end of the foreign intervention, the time has come that Afghanistan take its place in the Committee of Nations. As a neighbor, we wish Afghanistan well. China and Pakistan were the first to give humanitarian supplies to Afghanistan. And we also would like to ensure that a humanitarian disaster is averted in Afghanistan, because the people of Afghanistan, out of 35 million, 22 are food insecure. 5 million children are suffering of malnutrition. And with the coming winter months, we could have a serious catastrophe. So we feel that it's important that the international community engage with the neighbors of Afghanistan, like Pakistan and China and other neighbors, so that we avert the worst case scenario. Those who are trying to impose sanctions or penalize Afghanistan are penalizing and punishing the people of Afghanistan. This is a tried, tested, and failed formula. Sanctions against Pakistan, sanctions against China, sanctions against Afghanistan. We reject that approach because it is part of an outdated Cold War mentality. So let us work together and build a better Asia, a better and a peaceful region based on cooperation, not confrontation. And hence, Pakistan-China cooperation, which is more vital in the present times, is pivotal to ensuring peace, security, and stability in our region, in Asia, and the world. Thank you very much, and I wish the conference a great success. Long live Pakistan-China friendship. Thank you.